Hey guys, it's Graham. Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be talking about why host families normally choose girl au pairs over boy au pairs. Normally, I break my videos down point by point, but today I'm going to be breaking it into two parts. Part 1, why host families tend to choose girl au pairs over boy au pairs, and part 2, as a guy or a girl for that matter, how you can make sure you have your absolute best chance of finding a great host family. Before we even start this video, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel so I can keep making content just like this. I keep up with the new subscribers and the new likes, and I appreciate your support so much. Thank you. That being said, let's jump right into this video. Earlier this week, I was approached with this question from a guy who said, why do host families always seem to want girl au pairs? And when he asked me this question, I really didn't know the answer to it. I'd never thought about it before. And so all this week, I've been thinking about this question, and I decided to make a video on it because it is a really good question. And as a guy, or a girl for that matter, it can be good to know when you're looking for a host family, why they don't want to pick you just because of your gender. Fortunately, I've never had too much of a problem finding a good host family, but I have spoken to guys who have a really hard time finding a host family. They've waited for months and they still can't find one. So I've made this video to kind of figure out why that is, why you can't find a host family, and then how to give you your best shot at finding a really good host family. This video isn't just for guys, this can be for girls too, and I think the tips that I'm going to give you are universal across the au pair world, and I think they'll really help you out. Part 1 is why host families don't want to hire male au pairs or seem to always prefer female au pairs over male au pairs. Just to start this out, I want to give you some statistics that I found. Earlier this week, like I said, after I was asked this question, I went on Au Pair World and kind of started to play around with the search engine to see what I could come up with. On Au Pair World, I put that I was a male from the United States looking to be an au pair in pretty much all of Western Europe, and I didn't specify the start dates or the duration. I found that there were a total of 2,174 host families currently looking for an au pair. But that's not quite the case. Out of over 2,000 host families, about 1,900 of those host families were only looking for girls. They would not accept applications from male au pairs. The exact number was 1,912 host families, or about 88% of host families, were just looking for female au pairs. Of course, if you do the math, you'll see that about 12% of host families were looking for male au pairs, or 262 host families. For us guys, that means that our female counterparts have almost 10 times the likelihood of finding a good host family as we do. After finding out how many host families are looking for males, then I kind of went into looking at how many au pairs are males. Using the same search criteria, I found that out of almost 5,000 au pairs, around 4,500 were females. I did the math on that, and that's about 91% of au pairs looking for a host family right now are females. About 450 or 9% of au pairs are males. I found this really interesting because it means that females are 10 times more likely to be an au pair than males are. And that's crazy because it's a great experience for everyone. Now, if you're watching this video, you probably already know that you want to be an au pair, so these statistics don't matter that much to you, which is why I'm going to jump into the real content of part 1, which is why host families don't want male au pairs. This was definitely a hard pill to swallow for me because I love being an au pair and I think it's a really great experience for guys and girls. But after talking to some different host families and talking with some different au pairs, I've come up with two big things that I think are kind of behind why host families want females. Number 1, and the biggest one, is sexism. Unfortunately, even in 2020, we still have to be talking about sexism. And sexism is a really big thing in the childcare industry. Especially when you're looking for host families in Europe, you have to keep in mind that a lot of European host families are very conservative. Many Europeans tend to go with a very conservative Catholic worldview, and they don't look too fondly on having a male nanny. In my own experience, I've been discriminated on multiple times just for being a male. The first time I was looking for a host family, I found this incredible host family in Germany, and I sent them a message telling them about myself and kind of referring back to my profile. They responded very quickly, and I'll never forget what the mom said. She said to me in a message that I was the perfect au pair and they would absolutely want to video chat with me if I were a girl. Just because I wasn't a girl, then they wouldn't even talk with me. They wouldn't even interview me or message back and forth with me. And this is a really real thing for a lot of guys out there. There's also kind of a misconception in childcare that guys cannot be as loving and gentle and good caretakers as girls can. This is a lie. I made a post on an au pair forum kind of relating this topic, trying to get some host families' points of views, and many host families who had had both female and male au pairs said that their male au pairs were very playful, they were fun to be around, and oftentimes they were even more dedicated and more hardworking than the girl au pairs they had. I think male au pairs are typically more thankful for their job and they're more excited to be an au pair because it's harder to be an au pair as a guy. Not many host families want to hire you. And so when you finally do get that job, you're really excited and you want to do your very best that you can do. In my experience, I found that my host kids and I bonded really, really well, and I was nervous about it because they had never had a male au pair before. They had just had girl au pairs. Kiara, my oldest host child, she just turned 11. She and I were absolutely best buds. We did everything together. We would go on walks together and go to the park together and go and get ice cream together, like absolutely everything. We were super, super close. We built a really, really special bond and we had tons of fun together. Before my trip, I was really concerned that because I wasn't a girl, I wouldn't be able to bond with her and I wouldn't be able to understand her, but that was totally not the case. We were absolute best buds and we still have a really, really great relationship. Diego, the youngest host child, he just turned 8 about 2 months ago. We too had a really great relationship and we built a bond right off the bat. One of the great things I think about having a male au pair is they're more likely to play and have fun with the kids. Diego and I would play soccer and we would swim at the pool and we would do all these fun activities, and he had told me in the past the girl au pairs didn't really want to do stuff like that. So this is just another reason that having a male au pair is a good thing. It's fun because they will play with the kids most of the time, and I think in general they're a little bit more open to doing things like that. Besides sexism, I think there's another really big reason that a lot of host families don't hire male au pairs, and it's because they have bad details in their profiles or they're not really that good at giving good information. If you've watched any of my other videos, you've probably heard me mention how important it is, so important, to have a good profile and to make a good first impression on families. When I was doing my research for this video, I went on Au Pair World and started looking at male au pairs from all over the world, and I was absolutely shocked by what I found. I would say at least half of the male au pairs that I looked at their profiles had horrible profiles. Either the text was not good or they didn't have pictures, they didn't have a lot of details. Some of them didn't even have pictures at all. I mean, just absolutely nothing, no details at all. And I absolutely would not have sent a message to these au pairs if I was a host family. I think guys in general are less likely to give a lot of information and put down a lot of details that host families really want to see when they're looking for an au pair. Call me sexist if you will, but girls are normally pretty good at giving a lot of details and a lot of information, and they're more information oriented. And I've found that normally the moms of the host families pick the au pairs, or at least go on Au Pair World and look at them. So your profile needs to kind of cater towards females and a lot of information. Also, I think guys aren't quite as good at giving interviews as girls are when it comes to interviewing with host families and doing those infamous Skype calls. Again, guys aren't really good at giving details, and during these Skype calls, you're supposed to give details, you're supposed to go out of your way and look really nice, and I think guys sometimes don't have quite the eye for details and how to appeal to a host family. Okay, so that being said about part 1 as to why host families tend to stray away from male au pairs, now I want to get into part 2, which is how you can have your absolute best shot at finding a perfect host family. If you're interested in this, I've made a whole nother video about it. I think I called it How to Find the Perfect Host Family, and I'll link it up above. But I've put together just a couple really quick points that I think are very applicable for this situation. The first point is review/improve your profile or profiles. If you haven't already, you should probably make a profile on Au Pair World, and essentially what that will do will get your name out to potential host families. As I said in the last point, when I went through male au pair stuff, I began to notice rather immediately that a lot of guy au pairs had really, really bad profiles. And of course, a few girls did too. A lot of the guys didn't have very good pictures, they didn't have a lot of information, not many details, and I think that will really make it difficult for them to find a good host family. So the first thing you should do on your profile is include tons of information about you. Right out of the gates, you need to have all kinds of information about yourself, like why you want to be an au pair, your childcare experience, information about your family, what you like to do in your free time, what you eat, all kinds of stuff about you to give these host families kind of an image in their head of who you are. Now, of course, you don't want to get too wordy either, so don't write them a book, but do put in enough information to where they can kind of get the general gist of your personality from reading your profile. One really big thing that I suggest, and I did this, is have a girl go over and look at your profile. Like I said, most of the people who are going to be looking at your profile are women, and women know what other women want. So maybe have a girlfriend, have a schoolmate, have your mom, someone go over your profile, kind of look at it and see if you should maybe include some more details or take some out. Another really big point in having a good profile is having really good pictures. This is probably the biggest thing that I saw on the guys' profiles is they didn't have good pictures. And I know, as guys, we don't tend to take as many pictures as girls do. But be sure to include some pictures of you that show you clearly and not with a group of people, not in like a crowded area. Make sure that the picture shows your face, it's somewhat professional. Again, these don't have to be 100% professional pictures, but you don't want to have a picture of you on the beach with some buds drinking beer. You know, you want it to look pretty good and make yourself look presentable. I suggest that you include some pictures of you doing things you enjoy. So have, of course, a good picture of you, maybe like waist up, but also have some pictures maybe of you with kids, like if you have childcare experience, or you with some friends, you with your family. But you need to have at least a couple of just you, so the host family can get that image in their head of what you look like. Also in your profile, this is your chance to show your language skills. If you speak a second language, or a third language for that matter, this is the time where you get to kind of show off a bit. Make sure to include that you are bilingual if you are bilingual, and tell host families about your skills, what you can do for them. So for me, I always put in the first part of my profile in Spanish, podemos hablar en español o inglés, and that means we can talk in Spanish or English. So right off the bat, that shows Spanish speaking host families that I do speak a bit of Spanish, and that would attract them to my profile. The second thing that you should do to improve your chances is to work harder. The fact of the matter is, girls are dominating this field, and as guys, we have to work twice as hard as them to get the same result. One big thing that I suggest you do in working harder is dedicate an hour, maybe 30 minutes every day to getting on Au Pair World, sending messages, and responding to messages. Looking for a host family is normally a pretty intense thing. I mean, when I look for a host family, I talk with dozens of host families. Last time I talked to nearly 40, and it takes a lot of time. So be sure to dedicate some time every single day where you can get on Au Pair World, look for host families, send messages, respond to messages, get on Facebook groups, make posts, send messages that way, but make sure that you are dedicating some time each and every day to looking for a host family. But setting out that time every day is really, really important to finding a good host family, because quite frankly, you'll just outwork the other people. Another thing you should do under this point is to take notes on host families. Normally, I only took notes on host families if I did video interviews with them. But before I would have a video interview, I would go on their profile and literally take notes about their family. So their kids' names, if they had that, their kids' ages, what activities they like to do, their schedule, where they live, that kind of thing. Just so when you're in the interviews and they ask you a question, you can just look down at your notes. This here is the notepad that I use to take notes. You can see it's just a legal notepad. It's nothing too fancy, but I would essentially fill a couple pages up with information about that family. And during the interviews, be sure to be taking notes on what they're saying. I think that does two things for you. One, it shows that you're really interested in their lives and what they're saying. And two, I promise you will forget information about them if you don't write it down. If you do 14 video interviews with 14 different families, you will forget something. So you 100% need to write it down. Trust me. The last thing I have to say about working harder is you need to respond to messages on Au Pair World or on Facebook quickly. This is a really, really important point, and it's definitely understated, but when host families click on your profile, they will see how quickly you normally respond to messages. So for me, if I click on a host family's profile and I see that they only respond to messages maybe every 3 days or something, then I'm probably not going to send them a message, because it's not going to be convenient for me to talk back and forth with them if they only respond every 3 days. So you need to be checking at least once a day for new messages and responding to those messages as quickly as possible. In my 3 times looking for a host family, I've learned that the easiest way to do it is to send a couple messages on Au Pair World just to make sure that you like the family, and then give them your WhatsApp number. If you're from the US, WhatsApp is a great app that they use pretty much everywhere in the world except here, that lets you text, call, video chat for free. It's essentially like iMessage and it's free. So give them your WhatsApp number, and I think it's a bit easier to chat that way and a little bit more convenient. The last thing I have to say about finding a good host family is to get experience. A lot of profiles that I looked at today didn't have a lot of experience in them. A lot of the guys had never had childcare experience. And so if I was a host family, I absolutely would not send a message to someone who had no childcare experience. You might have heard me say this before, but I think before you become an au pair, you should have at least 30 hours of childcare experience. That's enough time to let you figure out if you enjoy working with kids, and host families like to see that you've worked with kids at least for a little bit before becoming an au pair. If you don't know how to get experience as a guy, or a girl for that matter, there's a lot of ways to get childcare experience other than just straight up nannying or being an au pair. Some of the ones that I've thought about are volunteering at a youth center, babysitting for free if you can't get people to pay you, offer to do it for free, volunteer at a school, teach some language classes, teach a sport, coach a sport, work at a summer camp, just something that has you working with kids. Also, having a few good references from your work experience with kids, like parents or maybe employers, will go a long way towards giving host families a good impression of you. Overall, the big thing that I have to say with finding a good host family is make yourself look really presentable, make your profile attractive, and be yourself. Be honest, don't be fake, don't be somebody you're not, just be yourself. Okay guys, so that is my theory and my solution as to why a lot of host families don't like to go with male au pairs. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I hope you've got something out of it. This is kind of a bummer for me because I love talking about this stuff, and I do hate to see that guys don't have equal footing as girls here. But it is what it is, and we're changing it one au pair at a time. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, like and subscribe, leave me a comment down below, and I'll be posting new content every Monday and Thursday. Muchas gracias y hasta luego.